it leaves out parts of the media history and the way that we covered the case.
In what way?
Well, we were involved in this narrative from Stephen Avery's family that this was a setup from the very beginning. So we were asking very critical questions of the law enforcement community from the very, very, very early days of the search. And that's one thing from what I've heard that the documentary does not get into. So we were asking the critical questions from day one as to whether or not this sheriff's department should have been ethically investigating Avery with the conflict of interest in the original 1985 rape exoneration.
Right. Also, one of the things that people who are watching it are wondering, before he went on trial for the murder, there was an extraordinary press conference where they laid out all these spectacular charges against him. They never brought him up in court.
Stephen Avery had given plenty of comments to us up to that point, so his side was very well represented in the local press in Milwaukee and Green Bay and the newspapers, on television. Stephen Avery used to call us after he was arrested a few days after Halbach's disappearance from his jail cell, and we would put him live on the evening news on the phone from his jail cell. And he was raising this narrative that, wait a minute, they have an axe to grind from the original case. So he was raising that question. We were asking the law enforcement community about it.
Did you think you were talking to a credible person when he made those phone calls?
I didn't try to make my mind up as to whether or not he was being credible or not. We were giving him the platform that he wanted to make his case.
What evidence was left out? The former prosecutors come forward and saying, you guys are leaving out critical parts of the story, and that's why he's sitting behind bars.
I think that many other people have commented about what evidence did not play a prominent role in the film, and I think that they've handled that discussion well on both sides of the case. So I'll leave that opinion to them.
Well, I tell you what, in addition to covering that particular murder trial, you also are now finding yourself caught up in the Twitterverse where people are talking about you. Here are a couple of comments from Twitter. Okay, but who is the Silver Fox reporter in #MakingAMurderer, and where can I find him? Actually, he's now an attorney in New Hampshire, aren't you?
Yes.
And here's another one. Seriously, Anderson Cooper has nothing on this guy. Look at that jawline, that chin dimple.
I'm waiting for a trademark infringement lawsuit now from Anderson Cooper over the hair, but it's been amusing. It's nice that my journalism work is being respected this many years after. I've heard from colleagues from the past who have said it's great that you've gotten recognition from the amount of depth you put into covering this trial. Beyond that, my fear is that some of the other comments will ultimately distract us from the critical issues that this documentary raises.
And we also can't forget about the family of Teresa Halbach. They're having to relive this whole thing.
Because of that case, is that why you went to law school?
It is largely why I went to law school. I mean, I saw an opportunity to go. I took the opportunity. I enjoyed it. But covering this case was unlike any other story that I had ever covered. And yes, understanding the legal wrangling of this case really piqued a curiosity. You know, despite some of the criticism that's been lodged lately, the attorneys on both sides of this case were very, very good in the courtroom. And I became curious. I'm a naturally curious person. I wanted to know more about why the rule of law resulted in a certain decision in a certain way, and that's what law school helped to teach.
Now you're a lawyer. All right. Very nice to meet you. Thank you very much,
sir.
Aaron Keller.